get working for the American people, because I just don't believe people in D.C. are working for the American people. They're working for themselves. Look at what has gone on the last 16 years in this country. You first had the Democrats blocking everything from President Bush. Then you had the Republicans blocking everything from President Obama. I saw a recent poll that said Congress's approval rating was at 28%, the high for the last 8 years. I find that hard to believe until I saw that there was another poll that said 29% of Americans believe in Bigfoot and 36% believe that a UFO has landed. So apparently there's enough flat earth crazies out there to believe that this Congress is competent. I don't believe that. Look at what has happened historically when Congress works with the president. From Teddy Roosevelt to Calvin Coolidge to FDR to Kennedy to Reagan to Clinton. Things get done on a massive level. That is what we need right now in the United States. This divisiveness, I don't care who's to blame, is driving America and me absolutely nuts.
Well, Deneen, when it comes to Senate confirmations, the Democrats are to blame. They don't have the votes to defeat anybody, but they've slowed confirmations to at least the slowest pace since Eisenhower. You might have to go back to the 19th century by some measures.
Well, sure. All the Senate Democrats can do now is block and stall. And you're right, they can't stop Donald Trump's nominees' picks to move forward. And so what they are doing, I think, is they're really misleading their followers as well, because they are filling them with false promises and false hopes. Think about how the thousands of people were protesting on Chuck Schumer's property at his apartment in Brooklyn. I mean, they are filling their followers with false hopes. And what the Democrats need to do is get out of the way and get on board. But yeah, the ratings are down, and they're going to do anything that they can to keep Donald Trump from moving forward.
Hey, Gary B., rather than moving forward and filling Americans' pockets with more of their own money, rolling back regulations, creating jobs, and getting this economy growing faster than 3%, which we haven't seen in 8 years.
Exactly. You know, I take issue with one thing, though, Dig. And look, everyone is always like, Congress has to get working. Normally when Congress gets working, on either side, by the way, they actually inhibit the growth of the average citizen out there. Look, I do hope that the current administration, Congress, gets through stuff done on repeal and replace Obamacare, hopefully with something better, which shouldn't be hard, and tax reform. Other than that, the real benefit to the average citizen out there is not laws passed by Congress. It's the things that Trump already has control of. It's the rules and regulations that go into the Federal Register. That's controlled by the Betsy DeVos's of the world, the Commerce Secretaries. It's those things, the EPA, that are not laws, but just the regulations out there, of which we have like 80,000 pages in the Federal Register, that are slowing it down. So on the one hand, yeah, I want Congress to get working, but you know what? I think we're going to be in this muck for a long time, as long as we have two parties. Trump can do a lot of things now once he gets his cabinet secretaries in place. And as Deneen pointed out, it'll be maybe a little slower than previous administrations, but it's going to get done. That's why I'm optimistic.
But Jess, Donald Trump, the president, has had to do things without those cabinet secretaries being in place, maybe to the administration's detriment, the country's detriment, whether it's the Iranian sanctions with no Treasury secretary, moving ahead with repeal and replace on Obamacare, the travel ban being put in place before Jeff Sessions was even confirmed.
I don't think we can blame the travel ban on the fact that Jeff Sessions
I'm not doing that, but I'm saying the fact that these cabinet positions had not, these people had not been confirmed was to the country's detriment.
Well, maybe Donald Trump should have slowed down a little bit. I actually think that what the Democrats are doing here, and I would like to add also, there were 2 GOP senators who voted against Betsy DeVos. So this wasn't just something that we did. There were concerns across the aisle, as well as her ability to lead the education department there. But yes, absolutely, Democrats obstructed here. Chuck Schumer made it perfectly clear that he had a number of questions that he wanted to ask of these nominees, and he was going to wait as long as he could to do that. Donald Trump will get his cabinet, but frankly, I don't think that this is a waste of taxpayer time or money. I don't think that we're giving people false hope. The Democrats never once said these guys aren't going to get confirmed. We know we don't have the numbers, but making this a worthwhile exercise in questioning, getting to the root of all of them, to understand what Rex Tillerson really thinks about Vladimir Putin, to understand if Jeff Sessions is going to uphold the Voting Rights Act, for instance, if Betsy DeVos actually has any understanding of the public school system in this country. That's vital to the
But
success
if you
of
look
America.
back, if you look back at Jonas, at how many of these secretaries had been approved in previous presidencies, it's appalling at how slow it's going right now. Tim Geithner was even one of the 11 out of 15 under President Obama, and he didn't even pay all his taxes, and he was confirmed to run the IRS.
Well, to John's point, it was definitely going on both sides, probably more so. Now, look, I think that people should know when they've been conquered. I learned that watching the movie Gladiator, and I think if you don't have the votes, you really should get out of the way. Because I think they're actually hurting themselves, Democrats, because ultimately you want to see the actual policies happen, because there might not be any planned, and it could be a big mess, and then you're going to get your way in 2 years when there's a vote. But by making it all about, dragging things on who's right politically, who's following the law, you're getting away from where the attention might need to be, which is where are these policies to fix Obamacare and how is that going to work? Because I think ultimately that's how you get reelected or not showing up in a grandstand asking questions and dragging out a process.
Yeah, John, it just speaks to the lack of relationship with the American people. That these Democrats, that's why they lost, because they're not listening to what the people want.
I agree with that, but I also agree with kind of what Jonas has said as well. It's why the Republicans lost a couple times in the last 16 years as well. They weren't listening to the American people either. Look at this, the last 16 years, you had two things done by the last two presidents, both consecutive terms. You had tax cuts by President Bush, rescinded by a Democratic Congress, and you had Obamacare by President Obama that is going to be repealed by a Republican Congress. So very little is getting done. And to Jessica's point, it's not necessarily the speed, it's the priorities. If you'd have come forward with a corporate tax and regulations being cut, a good repeal or sometime repair for Obamacare, that would have been approved by both sides of the aisle. Instead of you're going after things that are very controversial first, that's not the way politically to get things done.
Gary B., final word.
Well, I want to come back to something Jessica said. She said maybe Trump should slow down a bit.
Be nice.
I think, look, I know that's your opinion, but we've had 8 years of slowing down. Donald Trump, for all his warts, is showing he is in a hurry to make America great again. Slow down. I want him to speed up and do more things, not slow down with this glacial pace that we've been going at.
I understand. I think that we can separate kind of the bigger, I don't even know what to call it. I was going to say big ticket items. Like, I understand why you would want to do tax reform, especially corporate tax reform right away and things like that. I think that by moving so quickly with this travel ban, that he complicated all of it. And obviously Democrats were going to push back on various parts of his agenda, but by doing this controversial thing so quickly, especially when Jeff Sessions wasn't confirmed right away and when he didn't really go through General Kelly or through General Mattis, and I mean, it was just a confusing rollout there. I think he really hurt himself in the administration.
Meantime, Cory Booker testified against Jeff Sessions, something that had never happened in the history of Congress since it was formed in
Jeff Sessions is a very
1786. But again, who are they thinking about? Themselves and their political gain, and not the American people. Thanks, guys. Cavuto on Business, about 20 minutes.